to recap from yesterday, we learned what a midsegment was. So the midsegment was the line that connects two midpoints. And we learned that the midsegment is equal to half the third side, or we even thought of it as double the midsegment equals the third side. So we had thought of it as these two different ways, but they're really the same thing. And we also learned that AB is parallel to the third side. So your midsegment here is going to be parallel to the third side. So if AB is x, then CD would be 2x. So those were the two relationships that we went over yesterday and practiced. So today we're going to be looking at the same two relationships, except in terms of a coordinate graph and how we can do that. So we're only going to do one example today, but on that one example we're going to do a lot of stuff. So once you have that written, go ahead and draw yourself a coordinate graph. So that means an x and a y axis. And we're going to plot some stuff on it. Did that wrong. X, Y. And I made mine a little bigger than I needed to, so I'm just going to wipe that out. Yes, I will. Thank you for letting me know it was not seeable. So what I've done was I made it 7 on the going up on the y, 7 going out on the x. And I'm plotting my 3 points that are going to make my triangle. So our one example today is just using this one picture for every single part of it. So one of the things that we know about a midsegment is that a midsegment connects two midpoints. So that's going to be the first thing we find, is we're going to go over how to find midpoints. You guys have learned in the past a formula for midpoints. Does anybody remember it? This might be reaching back a bit. So how do we find the middle? Well, you take the two x values, add them together, and divide by 2, comma, and then you take the two y values, add them together, and divide by 2. And that'll give you the ordered pair for your midpoint. This is a formula that you have to know. So you want to star that so that you remember you have to know that by memory when it comes to your test. So what we're going to do is the first type of question you're going to have, and it's going to say to find D, which is the midpoint of AC, and E, the midpoint of CB. So in other words, we're going to find our two midpoints. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the ordered pairs. So for D, we're going to use the ordered pairs for A and C. So I'm going to take the two x values from C and A, so 0 and 4, and add them together, divide by 2. Take the two y values, 0 and 6, add them together, divide by 2. When we simplify those, 0 plus 4 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 0 plus 6 is 6. Divided by 2 is 3. That means my midpoint is at the ordered pair 2, 3. So I can go to the graph, go to 2, 3. There's D. And that's the point that is perfectly in the middle of the 2 points A and C. We'll do the same thing to find E, except we're going to use the endpoints C and B. So C has an x value of 0, B has an x value of 6. So 0 plus 6 divided by 2. And then 0 plus 0, because the y values are both 0, divided by 2. So E is going to be 3, 0. So go to 3, 0. There's E. So I found my two midpoints. Those two midpoints, when I connect them, will become the mid-segment. Okay, so what you're going to be asked to do on your assignment tonight for part of it is just to find midpoints, just like this. So are there any questions about how we find a midpoint? Okay, so the next thing we're going to find in this picture is we're actually going to show that the mid-segment, DE, is parallel to the third side, AB. So what's something that's special about parallel lines? They're not equal necessarily, but they do have something that's equal. What's equal on parallel lines? The slope. So if we can show that the slopes are the same, then we can show that they're parallel. So that's our next formula, is our slope formula. Does anyone remember what that is? Turn around on the back wall. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Yes, it is rise over run, but because we're dealing with ordered pairs, we want the one that's ordered pairs. This again is a formula that you have to have memorized for your test. So for the second part, or the next question, you're going to be asked to show DE is parallel to AB. So in order to show that, so you can think of this is A, the second part will be B. To show DE and AB are parallel, we're just going to find the slope of each one and show that you get the same number. So our slope of DE, I'm going to call this x1, y1, and over here I'll call this x2, y2. It does not matter which one you call 1 or 2 as long as you're consistent. So for DE, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, I get negative 3 on top, 1 on the bottom, so I get negative 3. Then I have to find the slope of AB. So for AB, I'm just going to bring it down so I can label. I'm going to call A x1, y1, and B x2, y2. So that when I plug it into the formula, I'll have y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. On top, I'll have negative 6. On the bottom, I'll have positive 2, which reduces to negative 3 over 1, or negative 3. So are the slopes the same? Yes. So then we can say, since the slope of DE is equal to the slope of AB, DE is parallel to AB. That's all there is to showing two lines are parallel. You find the slope of each line and then show that they're the same so that you can say they are parallel. So any questions at this point on finding the midpoint or showing that they're parallel? Okay, the last part is we're going to be showing on a coordinate graph. We're going to show how DE is half of AB, or how AB is twice as big as DE. So here we're talking about length. So does anyone remember a formula for length? Otherwise known as distance. So your distance formula is the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Again, this is your third formula you have to know by the time we get to a test or quiz. So the last part here is to show that the distance, one distance is twice the other. So we're going to find each distance. We're going to find the distance between D and E and find the distance between A and B. So if we start with the distance between D and E, I'm just going to use the same x1, y1, x2, y2. And I'm going to plug them into the formula. So x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1, whoops, y1 is 3, not 2, squared, and then I'm going to simplify. I'm going to move this up now. So I'll have the square root, so 3 minus 1 is 1. 0 minus negative 3 will give me negative 3. One squared is 1. Negative 3 squared is 9. So I get the square root of 10. Can we reduce the square root of 10? Think back to the very first week of school. If we do a factor tree, do we get any pairs? No. So that's as simple as it gets. So that's DE. Now we're going to find the distance of AB so that we can compare the distances. Now if I know that DE is root 10, what should AB be? Not root 10. Remember, it has to be twice as big. 2 root 10. Because it should be multiplied by 2 or twice as big. So when we go through this, we can think about, okay, I know I have to be 2 times as big as this. So if we go and do the numbers, so again, my x2 was 6, my x1 was 4, my y2 was 0, and my y1 was 6. So 6 minus 4 is 2, so I'll get 2 squared plus, I'll have negative 6 squared here. So I'll have 4 plus 36, because negative 6 times negative 6 is 36, which equals the square root of 40. So this is what we have to check, can we reduce the square root of 40? So make your factor tree. 4 times 10, 2 and 2, 2 and 5, a pair of 2's, so that we can bring a 2 out, multiply what's left back together, we get 2 root 10. Is this double the length or double the size of this? Yeah. So this is all you need to do to show the mid-segment is half of this side, or that this side is twice as big as your mid-segment. Okay, this is all we're doing today, is just practicing these 3 formulas to show that that lines are parallel, to show that one line is twice as big as the other, and to find midpoints. Your homework only has 3 questions, because did this take a while? Yes. So you have 2 of these where you're going to do on your own, where it's going to start with giving you a picture, and you're going to find midpoint, then you're going to find the next midpoint, then you're going to find the slopes to compare them, and then you're going to find the distances to compare them. That is all one problem. Okay? Like I said, you only have 2 of these, because they do take a long time. The third problem on your homework is a review of what we actually did yesterday, just more practice on the same type of problems as yesterday. And one of the things I want to just give you a heads up on your quiz, you have one of these where you have to do all of this. On your test, you have one of these where you do all of this. So if you know how to do each step, only thing that's going to change are the numbers for the ordered pairs. Okay, so I'm telling you now, so that if this is something you're struggling with after today, that you come in and see me and get extra help before the test, because I'm telling you, it is on your quiz and it is on your test, one of these exact problems. Okay? Any questions before you guys have time to work on your assignment? Okay.